Hello and welcome to the user guide and demo of our app named Gamplify. Gamplify provides the most reliable, accurate, and timely recommendation to global game players to help achieve ultimate gaming experience. To start off, we have the README file included in the distribution package to get more information about the functionality of Gamplify. So here is the README file for reference. It includes a user guide on the installation requirements, imports to our scraping procedures, and the different menu options that the user can select when using the program. Gamplify is wholly developed using Python. To run Gamplify, we will be using the Anaconda distribution for Python. So we have this already in our system. So we did an uninstall and reinstall of Anaconda to make sure our program works with a fresh environment install of Anaconda. We would also be requiring Selenium. So here in our README file, there is the instruction here on how we can be able to install Selenium using the Anaconda prompt. So from Anaconda Navigator, okay, we then go to Spider IDE to run our Gamplify. Here we have our Spider IDE, and we can open our main script file. This contains the key program structure of Gamplify. In the interest of time, we currently set this up to bypass the web scraping processes, as it often takes about 15 to 20 minutes to complete, especially the CPU URL.py. If the web scraping is bypassed, it utilizes the saved web scrape data found in the program directory. To enable web scraping, you need to refer to the main.py file and the CPU motherboard.py files. So I've opened this up here in my current session of Spider. In the main PY file, you can enable web scraping of Steam, benchmark summary, CPU, motherboard, and the Amazon. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, all these 4 sections here. So this can separately be enabled in the CPU mod. This can be separately enabled by uncommenting the import lines and renaming the file names by adding new at the beginning of each of the file names. So here, for example, we can uncomment import to enable the Steam web scraping script. And then in line number 17, the file name here, we just need to append, to add new underscore at the beginning of the file name. So we can do this for all 4 of these import lines so that we can enable web scraping for these options. The long web scraping time is mainly due to the CPU URL.py. It does the scraping of the different links of each benchmark records, which takes about 15 minutes. This can separately be enabled in the CPU underscore motherboard.py file by uncommenting the import lines and adding new underscore at the beginning of the file name. So this is the motherboard, CPU motherboard py file, and this is the section where we can do our edits to enable the importing of CPU URL. So same case as with our main, we just need to uncomment import and then put new underscore at the beginning of the file name for the CPU URL. So once you have it done, you enable this enables all web scraping functions and procedures of our script. Okay, so given the interest of time, we will be using, for this demo, we will be utilizing the existing script data from all our data sources. So we will proceed with the current setup. Okay, so we're ready to run our script. So by having the main.py file active, so let's just hit run. And we should be able to see this menu here in the console window. First, some advice, because we have some graphs that need to be displayed. We can actually be able to display the graphs in line by setting the panes, plot, okay, and make sure that we have this disabled, the mute inline plotting. So once it's disabled, we could be able to have the plots displayed in line. All right, so once we have it set, then we should be okay. Okay, so now to start off, if you see we have 5 different menus. menu options, so we can take a look at this one by one. The first menu is to display the CPU share by vendor. We could hit our choice here, and it will actually display us the CPU share by vendor as an area plot. Okay, you'll notice that Intel is still the majority, holds the majority of the market share, about over 75, 78%, and then AMD will have the remaining small portion. However, it is quite interesting to note that over the period of our graph from May to September, so the last five months, we are seeing an increasing trend in the market share of AMD. So AMD is slowly uh, gaining momentum in terms of the CPU market share for gamers. Okay, then we can have another graph to look at that might be interesting. This is on a graph by core count. Okay, in this graph, you would notice that 4 core is actually has the most number of users with the most market share. Okay, and you would notice that the 2 core is actually starting to decline its market share, while 6 core starts to gain its momentum. So users now or gamers are starting to shift to higher core CPUs. Okay, now for the menu 3, this allows the user or the gamer to input their preferences in terms of how they wanted their CPUs to be recommended to them. So let's go to option 3. Okay, here we have 6 different sub options. Okay, so if you don't want to set anything here, the default is number 1 or option 1, which is the average CPU score. Then we also have options if you want to, if the user prefers the CPU clock speed, if the user prefers the core count, higher core count, if the user prefers lower price, if the user prefers higher user rating from Amazon, okay, or if the user prefers their bang for the buck, a higher score per dollar rating. Okay, so for this particular demonstration, let's try, I am interested in what the users, has the highest review score for users from Amazon. So I'll pick out 5. Okay, and then next would be option for either choose 4 or 5. So if I'm interested in a price range, if I am sensitive to a particular budget, or if I am particular to a specific core count. So let's try number 4. Okay, choose the price range. Okay, and then I'd like a mid-range CPU. Okay, so in this, given these choices, the CPU recommendation that was given by Gamplify is the AMD Ryzen 7 3700X. The most popular motherboard for this CPU is ROG STRIX B450i Gaming. And then the best motherboard for the CPU would be the Gigabyte Technology Company Limited B550 Aorus Pro. So these motherboard configurations would be very interesting and very helpful for gamers as well, for them to get the most out of the CPU that is fit for their preference. So we can also try another option. Let's go back to preference menu number 3 to change our preference. This time, I'd like to prioritize the score per dollar. So that's 6. And then I'd like to choose a core count. Okay. I'm interested in having a 6-core CPU. Okay, since people are starting to transition to this 6-core CPU. So let's have this option. And this could, this, this could be able to, this gives us a recommendation of the Intel Core i5-9400F processor with the most popular motherboard, B360M Mortar, MS757B23, and the best motherboard for this CPU is ASRock H370 Pro. So feel free to try around different configurations and see for yourself how practical and easy it is to help you with your CPU.